Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Real Combat Media MMA Radio. I am your host. My name is Isaac Lanford. I'm coming to you from the Circle City, Indianapolis, Indiana. I have got my co-host, David Hewlett from Phuket, Thailand. David, how are you doing today?
How you doing? It is a beautiful morning in Thailand.
And you've been awake for 30 minutes now?
Yeah, just about 30 minutes.
Well, thank you for rising and shining with us. We also have on the panel tonight columnist from Real Combat Media, Zach Heim from Huntingburg, Indiana, just south of me. Zach, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great this evening, Isaac. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's been a bit of a busy day for me. I had a test at school today, and I also, on my way to it, wrecked my scooter. But it was fine. It was
what
busy.
was your test on?
I'm a criminal justice major. It's the theoretical foundations of the criminal justice system.
Theoretical? Wow.
Yeah, theoretical foundations.
How'd you do on the test? Did you make it or no?
Yeah, I got in there. I didn't do great on it. This is maybe the hardest professor I've ever had. I'm not great with I'm better with concepts than I am with terms. And being a theory class, it's a lot of terms. But it was a majority essay, short answer kind of thing, so I think it will balance out. I'm pretty standard a B student. I'm like a 3.0.
Yeah.
Because I like try hard enough, but I don't really like maybe try as hard as I should.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
It's all right. I'm getting through. A 3.0 is not bad in my opinion. And I don't have a whole lot of time between everything else I got going on, so it will have to do. But, hey, my day is going to brighten up on this show, and when the show is over, I go get my midnight release of Grand Theft Auto 5, so I'm excited about that as well.
Oh, is that the new one on PS3 or whatever?
Yeah. It comes out at 12:01 tonight. I've got the pre-order. Enough about that, though. We got to talk about some MMA. We have a fantastic show tonight. We've got featherweight challenger for Bellator, Daniel Straus. We also have flyweight prospect James Porter from here in Indiana talking about his upcoming fight with Sergio Pettis. If the audience would like to be involved in the conversation, you can do so by calling us at 347-324-5998. You can find us on Twitter at Real Combat Media and on Facebook, Real Combat Media. Very easy to get a hold of us. I have a Twitter. It's at Isaac Lanford, ISAACLANDFERT. David, your is?
DC Hewlett, DCHULETT.
And Zach, you have a website as well as a Twitter. Why don't you throw those out and tell us what the website is?
Okay, I got a website. It's called Choose Your State MMA. Basically, we cover MMA that's going on in southern Indiana. Also try to keep up with the UFC and Bellator. And then my Twitter account is at ZHeim82. ZHEIM82.
Fantastic. So tonight on the show, we're going to talk about the fights that happened this past week. We're going to look ahead at the fights that we have coming up this weekend. So I'm going to start with this past Friday. We had Bellator 99, which was the opening of their featherweight tournament for Season 9. Pretty solid card, some of the fights maybe weren't so overwhelming, but we did see Joe Tamangalo, Justin Wilcox, Fabricio Guerrero, and Patricky Pitbull all move on in the featherweight. Most notable in there, Justin Wilcox took a beating from Akop Stepian and came back and got the rear naked choke. and Patricio Pitbull just absolutely flattened Diego Nunez in the first round. In between it all, we had our man Houston Alexander, who was on last week, fight Vladimir Medvedevchenko, and the fight got a lot of criticism online. It wasn't, when I watched it, I went back the next day to see it, and it wasn't as boring as people made it out to be. But Houston was right. Vladdy's hands have come along, and he mixed up the striking and wrestling to a pretty clear, unanimous decision over Houston. It was a pretty good night of fights. David, do you have any takeaway impressions from the fight?
Well, I did not catch the Houston Alexander Matyushenko fight, but I did read the play-by-play, and it looked about like what I would expect. And Matyushenko he's a little bit more, he's a little gamier, a little bit more experienced, and of course he's got the top game wrestler. So no matter what Houston Alexander is going to do from the top, he's still going to have a disadvantage. Just sounds like that's what happened. Had a skill set match up, and the wrestler won.
Yeah, and the thing is, Vladimir's hands were looking good. Like, he hit Houston hard a few times, and he was always just a little bit a step ahead, and the wrestling, of course, was his advantage, although Houston took him down 2 different times, which was a little surprising. But, a tough fight for Houston. He never was really able to go forward, and I think that's kind of hurts his game plan quite a bit. David, did you also get to see Pitbull take Diego Nunez out?
No, I didn't catch any. I read the review of that one too as well, though, and I was pretty surprised. I remember the name Diego Nunez when he was in the UFC, and he's a tough guy, man. He's kind of inconsistent. It looks like in the UFC. He's got on a streak. So I guess he's in the UFC, and he wasn't quite up to snuff for that particular time and place, and if he just got melted by a dude, then and maybe we're not looking about like a super elite guy. Pitbull on the other side is doing pretty damn good himself.
Yeah.
Also, Pat Curran and Joe Warren, aside from that, man, he's going to tear it up.
Yeah, I think he's, again, going to be the clear favorite here in the tournament. I think we'd be seeing him challenging for the title again here within the early next year, whenever they can get another title fight around. But, I like the tournament format. I'm always happy with it. I'd like to see a guy put together 3 wins that quickly and get another title shot. It's a good deal. And Pitbull's legit. Like, he could be fighting anybody in the featherweight division in any organization, in my opinion. Zach, what are your thoughts on the results here of the Bellator 99 card?
Not a lot. I didn't get a chance to see it. Like we had talked about before, I just got a chance to read about it. I was watching the Notre Dame-Michigan game that night with my fiance and the baby girl. But, it looked like I missed a pretty good knockout, and I always enjoy seeing Houston Alexander lose. So I'm sorry I missed that. So I'm going to have to make sure I tune into the next Bellator show.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, something happened with my DVR. I had a show on Friday night, and so I didn't watch it. I planned on coming and watching it when I got home. Something happened. I may have had too many things recording or whatever. But the nice thing about these cards that are on cable is that it's not as hard to find them on YouTube afterwards. Any fights that aren't the UFC are a lot easier to find. But even sometimes the UFC, the free cards, they aren't as strict about chasing them down and deleting them afterwards. And so I was able to catch up on this card, luckily, and I was able to watch the whole main card. And, yeah. I heard, there was I should have looked this up before. I just thought about it. I think there was a Korean kid that debuted in Bellator, I think, who looked really good. I'll have to go back and look at that. I got that through Twitter from watching, so I'll figure that out. But so Saturday night, World Series of Fighting put on their 5th event, and it was a really solid night of fights. Georgia Carey-Hanian showed that, that dude's bad. He took out Waylon Lowe, submission round 1. Derek Mayman defeated Halls Gracie in a confusing fight. Hollow's he only attempted a couple of takedowns. He was willing to box, and it ended up paying him off. It was a pretty dramatic knockout that we'll probably be seeing for a while, a turnaround. It was the Ric Flair. He walked a few steps and fell on his face. David Branch moves on in the middleweight tournament with a win over Daniel Villafort, which David Branch did what he does. He's got a great ground game, and he exploited Villafort. But big news, Elvis Mudapasik and JT Money Jesse Taylor fight canceled because Athletic Commission spotted a questionable pill bottle in the corner of Mudapasik and called the fight. It's much disputed, but the Athletic Commission stands by it. Both men got show money. They're going to rematch. They're going to figure out who's going to move on in that tournament. And then Andre Arlovsky defeated Mike Kyle by unanimous decision in what was a great fight. Few knockdowns here and there. I wasn't watching it closely enough to score it when I watched it, but it was a close fight, and a unanimous decision kind of surprised me. I thought at least one judge would go the other way. David, did you get a chance to watch the World Series of Fighting card?
I will let you know, I am in Thailand, and so it's hard for me to get any kind of complete broadcast of anything, but I did go back and watch the Arlovsky-Kyle fight because that was one that I was really interested to see. Those guys both like to throw, and you always want to see if Arlovsky, that great technical boxing that he has, is going to pay off in the fight. Everyone knows what he's capable of. He's capable of with his hands. Excuse me, and this was a great showcase of that. I think Mike Kyle is the perfect opponent for Arlovsky to be fighting right now. They had a great back and forth fight. Like you said, there's some knockdowns. And it was just a great striking based fight, but it was almost like a cool kickboxing, clinch boxing. It was one of those it was an MMA stand up match, basically. It was pretty entertaining to watch. I agree with you, I was a little bit shocked at the unanimous decision because it was really close. I mean, I didn't think that anyone clearly dominated, but at the same time, it was just entertaining. And I don't know if anybody's super concerned about which one of them is going to, take the next biggest fight. You know what I mean? They're both kind of marquee names, so they'll get work no matter what. But that was a great fight. I enjoyed that. What the hell happened with JT Money's fight? I mean, I haven't talked to him since I saw that, but I did. When I read that, though, I remember thinking that the New Jersey Athletic Commission is notorious for being one of the strictest athletic commissions in the United States, maybe the strictest.
Sure, yeah.
You need to redo all your medicals for them every month. Like if it's more than 30 days, then you have to redo them. And that's real tricky for a lot of fighters. And I guess they're really strict with other stuff too. I mean, they straight called the fight. They quit. They canceled the fight because they saw him take a pill. Like, what did you just put in your mouth? Nothing. All right, cancel the fight. Like they did that.
Yeah, and it actually sounds like it was even worse than that, or maybe worse isn't the right, more extreme than that, where they didn't even see, I don't think they saw anyone take a pill. They found a pill bottle, and they took it, opened it up, and it had various pills, and this is what I've been reading, that they found various pills inside. It was evidently the manager who was going to be cornering in the fight. It was his bottle with, heart medicine and that sort of thing, but the commission stood by. They're like, you have to declare what you bring into the dressing room. There's reasons for this, and if you bring in something that hasn't been cleared, we have no choice but to assume that it could be there for malicious purposes, and the fight's off.
How many pills can you take, right before a fight that would even matter, even if that was a thing, How many fights are there where people aren't watched after at all? And how many crazy, terrible things happen outside of New Jersey? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's all that. Yeah, just cracking down like that really super necessary for shows. I mean, to the point where you're canceling fights based on theoretical, where you would rather mess up an event than I don't know, than not go 100% by the book, beat by beat on the rules.
Yeah, it's a confusing thing, and hopefully, we got to get JT in here on the show anyway, and so I'd like to get his reaction because like for me, like I can't compare it to anything. Like if somebody booked me to come perform a comedy show and I showed up and then when I got there it was canceled, but they were like, oh, but here's your money, I'd be disappointed, but I'd also kind of be like, okay, well, I guess I got paid, so at least that's good. But I'm not in a gym for 10 weeks preparing mentally and physically for that. So I can't imagine what that's like. Have you had that situation yourself, David, where you had a show, like a fight canceled night of?
Oh, I absolutely have. I had two. Hold on just a second. Food delivered. I had two. Once in Mississippi, where I had a fight set up, and I did a training camp and everything, and it was kind of a short camp, and I got all the way down there for this. It's for like the Atlas fights or something like that. And I make weight, and I go through all. I make weight in a parking garage in Mississippi. During the summer, and sorry, and I gotta bring it. Later. All right. I got room services. Probably some food. All right, so I had to make weight, and anyway, so I get a call the day of the fight after I make weight and everything, and the guy's like, "Hey, you're suspended. You can't fight." I'm like, "You didn't check that before?" Because I had gotten a concussion in a previous fight, so I'd gone through that whole thing, and they didn't bother to check to see if I was even allowed to fight until the day of the fight. I didn't think I was suspended. I didn't think that I was like officially suspended in the commission or anything. So there was that, and that sucked really bad because they didn't pay me shit for that. They were just like, you screwed up our show, get the hell out of here. And then another time I flew all the way to Bahrain for Maury Smith's show, the Raw Power show, and I trained for that and everything. I was basically in Saudi Arabia, and then they were like, oh, hey, your opponent can't make it. He got snowed into Chicago or something, so I was just sort of got a free trip to the Middle East with a bunch of fighters because my opponent didn't happen. Yeah, that's happened a couple of times. It's relieving, but then it's frustrating. It's relieving because it's like, oh, okay, cool, that whole anxiety is like I get paid a little bit of money, I don't actually have to fight. But then at the same time, it's like I did all this work, I was really planning on fighting. And it's like now it's like it's like you do this whole training camp almost for nothing, just to build up a new foundation so you can do a new training camp. It's like, oh, great, I got to do all that work all over again, and not have a payoff.
Yeah.
Or so it is annoying. Ultimately, yeah, you put a lot of effort into it, and if you, it's scary fighting. Like the stress levels can be really, really high. So it's always nice for that you know you don't have to worry about that anymore. Without having to go through the fire, but then you realize, I was really waiting for the fire, I kind of miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, you're in a career where that win is very important. Like, not doing anything is worse than losing. If you look good in a loss, that's fine, but not doing anything, I mean, anything that's, like, got the show aspect to it in this day and age, if you're not in people's face regularly every few months, then you start falling out of their mind.
True, but honestly, in mixed martial arts, I mean, it really, record-wise, it all boils down to W's and L's. I mean, that it really, really does. So, like, if you're in a weird situation, it's almost like, something unexpected happened and it might cause me to lose the fight, you should not take the fight because you don't need unnecessary losses. I mean, that really, it's really amazing how much that matters to promoters when you're trying to. It doesn't matter who you fought, but if they can Google you and you're 10-0 versus 10-5, it makes a huge difference. Even if you've had those 5 extra fights that were losses were super awesome, exciting fights. That doesn't matter nearly as much as the fact that you had 5 losses.
Yeah, you're right too, because I'm thinking of watching someone lose in spectacular fashion on television, and that's a lot different than someone having a good fight in Alabama.
Well, I mean, I don't know. They televise Alabama fights sometimes.
I'm not getting any of them, evidently. Zach, are we overlooking anything here on this World Series of Fighting card that you want to throw in on?
Not really. I would just like to know why a crazy tried to stand there and box. That's my question.
Yeah. It was Bas Rutten, which a lot of people shit on Bas Rutten's commentary. But I like Bas Rutten's commentary because
like Bas Rutten.
Yeah.
What's their address?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but you hear it a lot where people say that the sports passed him by, whatever. But he was like talking about Hollis that whole time, saying, "Oh, maybe he's just been working on it hard, and he decided this is the fight to show it." But the guy he was fighting was like a strict stand-up fighter. So I don't know why that's the fight that he decided to do it. You think you do that when you can get in there with someone who you don't have the ability to take down, like someone who's a good wrestler or something like that. It was strange, and he paid for it. And like I said, we'll be watching that face plant for a while on highlights, I think.
That was such a brutal knockout. I mean, it was one of those where it's like as soon as he got hit, it's like he's like, I've got groceries and I got to go get them, and he turned around and started going. You know what I mean? Like he just always flipped the script in his brain. It's a pretty bad shot, man. It was really a brutal knockout.
Yeah, it was. Hey, we're going to do a commercial here real quick, and we're going to come back and we're going to do a preview of the upcoming Bellator and UFC cards. We will be back in just a moment.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
All right, we are back here, Real Combat Media, MMA Radio. I am Isaac Lamford, Hollywood David Hewlett, and Zach Hahn are with me as well. We are about to do our preview of the upcoming cards this weekend. Bellator 100, which that's kind of surprising. Bellator has had 100 events already. They snuck that up pretty quick on me. And they got the welterweight. It's kind of strange. Their main card is the Season 9 welterweight tournament opening rounds, but it's also the Season 8 welterweight tournament final happening at the same time. That's a little overlap going on there. Interestingly enough, the undercard on this Bellator card, you have Efren Escudero fighting. You also have undefeated lightweight Bubba Jenkins fighting once more. I wish that he was televised. I'd really like to see Bubba fight some more. And also, there's a heavyweight fight between Mighty Mo and undefeated Dan Charles. This snuck up on me. I had no idea that Mighty Mo was going to be fighting for Bellator. And the guy that he's fighting has a mixture of submissions and knockouts, so that will be interesting. Hopefully, he's thinking about taking it to the ground with Mighty Mo, I would assume here. But we're looking at the welterweight opening round, War Machine against Vaughn Anderson, Justin Baseman against Brent Weidman, Mark Scallion against Herman Tirado. Last I saw, someone can email and correct me, Luis Melo still does not have an opponent, and it's coming up this Friday. And then, of course, the tournament final from Season 8 is a rematch between Douglas Lima and Ben Saunders, which I do not see any reason to believe that it's not going to go Lima's way again with a KO. The Lima brothers are for real. Zach, I'm going to throw to you first on this, and let's talk about the main event here: Douglas Lima and Ben Saunders. What do you think?
I don't really
know.
Zach? Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I don't really know what to think too much. I don't know a whole lot about either one of them. I know more about Saunders, so I'm going to have to pick Saunders just because I've heard of him more. For for lack of any other better reasons. I was just looking on the Bellator app on my phone, and I can't find the card on the app. So now I'm trying to go to the website. So, but that's what I'll go with Saunders on that fight.
All right, well, I will point out one thing to you, whether or not it sways your opinion, you're entitled to your opinion, is that Douglas Lima's only loss since 2009 is to Ben Askren by decision. He's a tough dude.
Let's go for the underdog.
Hey, yeah, there you go. And Ben Saunders is tough, and he seems to improve all the time. David, what do you think about the main event here?
Well, with Saunders Lima, you've got to think about level of competition. I mean, Ben Saunders had that really good run in the UFC. Doug Lima's never actually done that. And Lima, who is more or less striking based, he's still going to have to blast his way through Ben Saunders' clinch, which is pretty scary. Ben has been so one-dimensional when it comes to his knockouts, the way he finishes people. He's just great. He's so tall for the welterweight weight class, and he gets people in that tie palm and just starts rocking them, and that's how he gets through. And Doug was just like, forget that, and blast him. But I don't know. They're both really exciting fighters. They both like to finish. They both have pretty diverse skill sets. You kind of know what both of them want to do, and they're both really good at it. I don't know, man. I'll take Ben in the upset. We'll see. Say maybe pull something out of Lima. I don't know if Lima's been really. I don't know. We don't really know how good Lima is because he hasn't actually fought at the top level just yet. Ben Saunders is sort of a fallen UFC guy, and but at the same time, he's had some really good fights in the UFC as well. So I don't know. I think you're right. I think that on paper it definitely favors Lima, but I'll take Saunders in the upset.
Yeah, well, and what I'll say is this. Although I do think that Lima's going to win this fight, I think he's going to win by knockout again. I think it's going to be a lot the same as the last fight. I'd almost rather see Saunders win because he's got the type of guard that I want to see Ben Askren have to fight in.
Oh, yeah. That is interesting. Although Saunders, his kryptonite in the UFC turned out to be John Fitch in that style.
That's true.
So,
yeah, because maybe he surprises with a couple of triangles. But
maybe Ben Saunders isn't really known for his guard, though. I mean, when that fight with John Fitch, he couldn't do anything. I mean, that was so one-sided. It was a fascinating fight to watch because it really shows, how to thwart every possible takedown attempt defense. It was like one after the next. Everything that he did, Fitch just got through. I would imagine that fight would look similar, but yeah, I'd rather see. I think I'd rather see Lima rather than Ben fight Askren because it's going to go to the ground, and Lima's got that black belt and a better record, or a better more percentages, I guess. Yeah.
And this card as well. Go finish your thought. I won't interrupt you.
Oh, I was going to say, and Doug Lima also shares a submission victory. He also has a submission victory over Ryan Ford, and he's one of a couple of people to have that, but he has an armbar over a monster guy who's not easy to submit. Ford's only been submitted by Doug Lima, Pat Healy, and myself, and that's that's Lima can make it happen when he needs to, if pushed. Yeah. So it's going to be an entertaining matchup. We'll see. I'd rather see Lima fight Askren than Saunders. If you just ask me right now, that's what I would say.
Sure. What I was going to say though is on this card you also have War Machine fighting, which is always a bit of a spectacle in itself. He has put together 2 wins here, but man, this guy has fought twice since 2010. He's had so many problems. He did fight in June, so I mean he's warmed up or whatever, but I don't know, man. War Machine seems to be a bit of a head case. You can't really count him. And his opponent Von Anderson is 16-1, and he's got a gang of submissions here. So I think it probably looks kind of bad for War Machine in this tournament.
I disagree. I think War Machine is going to destroy Von Anderson.
All right.
And I'll tell you why. War Machine is, he had that whole jail thing, and then he got out, and now he's, like, doing great again. And he's got Huerta and Blasovina that he's kind of gone through. Now, Roger Huerta's been on the down slope, and Blasovina's been on the downswing for a while. But the fact that War Machine showed up and put those guys away soundly, then I think that indicates that, and they're both tough. You know, Blas and Roger are both tough, but they haven't really been winning fights lately. And they're sort of at that level, they're sort of the journeyman level type of guy. You know, for War Machine to walk through both of them, then at the Bellator level at this time and at this moment in time, I think that indicates that he's going to be a handful for someone like Vaughn Anderson, who he does have a 16-1 record. But Vaughn Anderson was actually offered to myself as a potential opponent out here in Burma. And I looked him up a little bit, and he's apparently been doing most of his work in China. And I was like, all right. So I took a look at it, and I watched a fight of his, and I was not very impressed. It seemed very basic. And then you go and look at his record, and it's 100% no-name Chinese people.
All right.
Like everybody he's fighting, like I don't think he has this is true. I do not think he has a single winning record that he has beaten.
Yeah, well, that you've done your research on these two guys, that's for sure. And I hope you prove me wrong. I hope you do. I hope that War Machine shows me that he has it all together and that he's in there to win this tournament.
I think War Machine is. I feel my theory is that War Machine is tougher. You know, actually, I was just looking at Vaughn Anderson's record, and he has fought people with winning records, but I don't think he's beaten anybody who has an impressive record. Like everyone's like 4-3, like 7-5. You know, like he's not beating experienced guys. He's not training with experienced guys. He's not competing against experienced guys. War Machine is an experienced guy, and I think he's going to take it to the cleaners.
I'll be very interested to see if you've exactly nailed this. Zach asked.
I hope so, man. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, you're making it all up. You're not even looking at his record right now, are you?
I'm looking at it. I researched Vaughn. I know about him.
Right on. So Zach, do you see a clear front runner in this welterweight tournament here?
Not really. I look for War Machine to win this fight for a lot of the same reasons David said. I think he's fought tougher competition in the past. He may not have been around much the last couple of years, but like you said, he did fight in June. So he got that cage rust or whatever you want to call it off. And I look for him to turn some heads and let everybody know that he's back and he's ready to do business.
Well, what's good to see is that War Machine obviously still has fans, and that's a good thing because he is a charismatic guy, and he has had some issues, so hopefully, he's going to bounce back. I will throw out there before we move on that my front runner for this tournament, I think Brent Weidman might pull this one off. He's a super talented kid, and that's who I'm putting my money on if I had to for this tournament.
Brent Weidman is a friend of mine, and I fought him back in Atlanta a while ago. And Brent is a freaky talented guy. He's very, very, very good. He comes from a great camp out of Kentucky, and he just got his black belt, I believe, and he's always been a fantastic striker. He is very. I agree. So, are we looking at the tournament as War Machine, Vaughn Anderson, Brent Weidman, and Justin Baseman?
Yeah, and then there's the other fights with the opponents that aren't nailed in yet.
Man, yeah, I'm with you. I would say that this is. I hope that Brent pulls this out. I think that he is. I don't know who Justin Baseman is, but I know he's better than Vaughn Anderson, and I feel like he could beat War Machine. I don't think it would be that difficult for him to do it either. We just got to make sure we can't overlook Justin Baseman. This guy, he's got a really pretty solid record, but he's on the tear and everything. But I don't think that he's at the same level as Brent. I mean, Brent is really a top shelf guy, and he has been for a long, long time. And there's gonna be a tournament I'll be paying attention to.
Yeah, and this tournament, they've done what Bellator can do sometimes that makes them the number 2 promotion, really, in my opinion, and that's bring us guys that we're not very familiar with who have really solid records and that have been kind of under the radar, and then mix them in with a few guys that are recognizable that were in the UFC or whatever, and put together a pretty intriguing tournament. And that I like that they don't do the straight brackets, that they wait to see who wins and then make the matches from there to keep it all exciting. They still run it a bit like a show, and it keeps you invested in watching through. So, yeah, definitely keep an eye on the welterweights on Friday night. Moving on to Saturday night, probably the best card we've seen out of the UFC in the past probably 4 months or so, UFC 165, which is stacked from top to bottom with recognizable names and solid records in their own right. I'm going to start here at the top of the card and just work up. We've got Nandor Giannamino against Daniel. I'm going to get a translator before these shows as this is going. We're getting so much international talent in the UFC now. Daniel Amialanzimku. Then Bruce Leroy. Yeah, I know, right? Thanks. Bruce Leroy taking on Roland Delerma. Michael Perez against Jesse Ronson. Rene Forte against John Medetsky, which I love watching Medetsky fight. Mitch Gagnon against Dustin Kimura. Chris Clement, Stephen Thompson. Ivan Minjvar and Wilson Hayes. And it's neat to see those guys fight. Both guys have been around for a long time. Miles Jury against Mike Ricci. And then you hit the main card, which is just phenomenal. Pat Healy against Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Oh, my God.
I know his name, too. I need to do my tongue exercises here. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Francis Carmont, against Konstantinos Philippou, which that's a pretty important fight at middleweight right there, as well as the lightweights before them. Matt Mitrione and Brendan Schaub. We're going to have a big Godzilla fight in the cage. Renan Barao, the killer, against Eddie Wineland, fellow Indiana boy, for the bantamweight title, the interim bantamweight title, and of course light heavyweight champ John Bones Jones against Alexander Gustafsson for the title. This is an amazing card. I think we should start with the main event and kind of work it down a little bit. Zach, I'm going to go to you first. What do you think about Jones Gustafsson?
I think John Jones is obviously one of the top 2 fighters in the world. I'm not taking anything away from Gustafsson, or however you say his last name. I just don't see anybody beating John Jones in light heavyweight. I know Gustafsson's got the size. He's taller than John Jones. He's long. He's lanky like Jones. I just think Jones is so talented and so skilled that I think he's really the next generation mixed martial artist. I just don't see him getting beat anytime soon.
Yeah, well, it definitely, no one's really come too close yet. David, what do you think about the main event?
Sorry, got me the bipolar omelet.
Here, I'll tell you what I think, and I'll let you
go ahead.
Finish your bite here. I have to agree with Zach. I don't see Gustafsson taking John Jones' title from him, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did. Alexander's a pretty scrappy, dirty fighter. Like, he really puts it on. If anyone can try to draw John Jones out of the game plan and keeping the distance and make it a sloppier fight and maybe try to get an advantage, I think that's Alexander's chance in this fight. But I just think that Jones does everything a little bit better than the Mauler does, and I see. I don't know if Jones is going to get the stoppage in this one. Gustafsson's really, really tough, but it's going to be a tough fight. But I think definitely if Jones walks away with a decisive victory.
He just has to keep his toes together.
What's that, Zach?
Said he just has to keep his toes on straight.
Yeah.
Jones does.
Yeah.
So, hey,
what do you think? What do you think, David?
He was.
Well, Zach has something.
What was that, Zach?
Oh, I was just going to make fun of John Jones again and call him Johnny Broken Bones Jones. He was 30 seconds away from losing to Chael, so
that's true.
You might have something there, Isaac. This guy might take his title. He can last through the first round.
Maybe, yeah, if he just doesn't get submitted. All right, David, what's your call on this main event?
Well, I would say that definitely favors Jones. Gustafsson is extremely talented. He's capable of catching people unexpectedly in different ways. He's very, very skilled. He's a big, strong, athletic guy. And his only loss is to Phil Davis. However, there's a reason that Bones Jones hasn't been tested against Phil Davis yet, and that's because Phil Davis hasn't made it to Bones Jones yet, because everyone who has beaten Phil Davis has been beaten by Jones as well. And so, I mean, I don't know. I think that's the explanation on paper. However, here's the thing: they are both very young, and they are both inclined to make mistakes as well. And like Jones has he's slipped up a couple of times. He's gotten out of trouble. He was in trouble with his feet toward Belfort. He had a couple of times that Machida threw him off. I mean, he pulls it out because he's got his athletic ability, and he's so skilled and tough. But at the same time, he's still sort of a puppy, but Gustafsson is as well, so it's kind of like two youngsters, but one of them definitely has the edge. I think it's Jones, for sure. Although I do leave the window cracked for Gustafsson pulling off something, because he certainly has the size and the horsepower to do it. It'll be entertaining no matter how it goes, but Jones is by far going to be the favorite, obviously.
Yeah, and I have to think the betting odds are exactly reflecting what we're saying. The betting odds may be more in Jones' favor than what we're saying right here, but he's definitely the clear-cut favorite. I do want to get to this co-main event here. We're going to throw to commercial first, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the interim bantamweight title fight between Renan Barão and Eddie Wineland. We will be back in just a moment.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
All right, we are back here, Real Combat Media, MMA Radio. We are talking about UFC 165 right now. You, the audience, can call in at 347-324-5998. Hit us at Real Combat Media on Twitter, and find us on Facebook, Real Combat Media as well. So we're looking now at Renan Barão versus Eddie Wineland. Before I even add my 2 cents, Zach, I'm going to hand over to you to tell us your thoughts on the interim bantamweight title fight.
I'm going with Wineland just because he's from Indiana. That's all that needs to be said to me is he's from Indiana, and that's who I'm going with.
Did you ever pick against Chris Lytle in a single fight?
No. Should I?
Was that a silly question for me to ask?
Yes. I'm an Indiana boy, man. You gotta go for the Indiana guys.
Hey, I am too, but sometimes my head gets in front of my heart, and I go that direction. David, you are not so biased in this matter. Who do you think is walking away with that interim title?
Oh, I say Barão takes it. I mean, that's just what I say. I mean, he's only got one glitch on his record, going through everything else. Although I don't see how this isn't going to be an entertaining fight. These guys are both gamers.
I agree. I think it's hard for me to pick Wineland. If I'm not mistaken, like I was looking at this earlier because like Wineland's solid, you know, he's a great fighter, but I look at his record as I'm doing the research for the fight, and he had 2 losses. He put together 2 wins, and he's got a title fight. Does that just show how Renan Barão has mowed through this division, that this is the title challenger that they came up with?
I say it does. That's what always happens too when you have a guy who is way better than the other people in his weight class. Is you have the matchmakers have to get creative matching them up because nothing really makes sense. I mean, there isn't really one who is as good. I mean, look at some of the stranger matchups that they've gotten for, you know, George St. Pierre or what's another example?
Anderson Silva.
Anderson Silva is a great example, yeah. Any of these guys that really dominate their weight class, you always see these sort of strange times. What about Toyoshi Kosaka fighting Fedor back in Pride, the rematch? That happened because they ran out of people for Fedor to fight, and there just wasn't anybody left, you know, so like, we'll just throw whoever, you know, he beat him once, technically, by a cut. So you'll be like, oh, well, he's on a 2-fight streak. You know, he could maybe do it. Let's throw him in there, you know. And so they do. Meanwhile, Barão is, you know, he's 30-1. 30-1. What kind of record is that? That's insanity. That's insanity is what that is.
His first fight is his loss.
Yeah.
So he's essentially undefeated. I mean, that's so long. He's won 30 fights in a row.
He lost a decision in 2005, and since then he's been on a killing spree. This guy's a monster.
So I think that he'll take out Wineland. I think he'll finish Wineland. Of course, the fight that, you know, needs to happen is the Dominic Cruz fight, but I'm kind of passionate about this, so forgive me. I have nothing against Dominic Cruz as a person, as a fighter, whatever. Obviously, I don't know him. I don't have anything against him as a person. But what's driving me crazy is the fact that he is still the bantamweight champion. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's been, 2 years since he's fought, and they're going to bring him back on his first fight after 2 years and make him fight Renan Barão? That's crazy to me. He needs to vacate the title and come and get a warm-up fight before he's fighting for the title again. And they're trying to say he's the champ. He's going to stay the champ unless he can't come back. Tell that to Matt Serra, who beat George St. Pierre, got the title, did a reality show for the promotion, got injured before the Matt Hughes fight, and they stripped him of his title because he hadn't defended it in 1 year. That's bullshit. He was the challenger when he fought George St. Pierre. That is ridiculous. But yet Dominic, if you tell me they learned from their mistake and they're not going to do that anymore, cool. Because there's been favoritism all along the way. Randy Couture was, quote, retired, shopping contracts around, and they let him keep his title. While Frank Mir gets injured in a motorcycle accident, they take the title away. It just seems very inconsistent on what they do with their champions, and I'm not a fan of the inconsistency whatsoever.
Seems like Dominic stayed in just close enough touch that they didn't decide. You know, he's like he called him every weekend, like, hey, how's my belt? It's all right, cool. You know, how's my title? And like he checked in enough that they didn't forget about him and didn't just be like, oh, who's got the belt again? I'm sick of people not fighting for this one, you know.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is. And, you know, he's also marketable. He's a good-looking young guy, and I'm sure he's a better champion for them to push than Renan Barão is. He lives in the States, and he can do commentary, so I get all that, whatever. I just hope it stays consistent with all the champions. They all get that same kind of treatment, you know.
I don't want to look past Eddie Wineland, but I would love to watch Dominic Cruz and Renan Barão. I've been studying, like in my own training the last year. I've been really looking closely. One of my students back in Australia sent me a YouTube video, which was a breakdown of Dominic Cruz's crazy footwork and the techniques and stuff that he uses. And I've been watching very closely, you know, studying the technique and stuff that he uses. It's really fantastic. And I'm fascinated not just to learn how to do it, but to learn how to undo it as well. So I'm always watching close when Dominic Cruz fights. I'm a big fan of his. You know, he's got such an unorthodox and effective style. So I say we just throw the kitchen sink at this kid and see, you know, what he can do.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. I mean, these are the highest level of fights you're going to find, and I'm going to be for them. It doesn't matter who it is and how long they're laid off and whatever. If you can get the best guys in the world in the cage together, then I am all for it. And speaking of that, we might be finding out on this card the next guy to really break into that top 5 in the middleweight division between Francis Carmont and Costa Philippou. Francis Carmont kind of been a little more under the radar. I believe he trains at TriStar, and so he's got that like GSP gym hype behind him. His performances haven't been so like astonishing, but he's been racking up wins in the UFC, and of course Costa has as well, taking out Tim Bosch in his last fight. Like, it's kind of surprising to me that these two guys are fighting each other instead of fighting each of them fighting another guy who's like, higher up in the rankings. But I'm not mad about it. They're kind of going to see which one of them gets to move up and the other will have to take a back seat for a while. I'm going with Costa on this one just because he's impressed me more since he came to the UFC than what I've seen out of Carmont. I didn't really think that Carmont, maybe he beat Larkin in his last fight, but he didn't do it convincingly, in my opinion. So I'm leaning toward Costa on this one. What do you think about that one, David?
Yeah, I got a split decision and a decision. And then you've got, I'm always suspicious of a striker. I just assume he's a striker because he's French, who has a lot of decisions. Although he's got a couple of them. Yeah, it would appear that Philippou has a little bit. He's been dealing with a slightly edgier crowd when it comes to competition. Is what it looks like to me. And he's on a longer streak. He's got the five fight streak right now. So yeah, I'd say Philippou probably takes that one.
Zach, are you?
But you never know what's going to come out of TriStar. You just never know what kind of crazy super soldier they're working on up in Montreal. So, this guy might show up with some new tricks. He could be one of those guys who, he's still putting it together. They got a lot of guys who are works in progress up there. Really high level works in progress. But I would, Philippou definitely edges it on paper. It's going to be an exciting fight, man. I'm excited about this one, dude. It's going to be a good card overall.
It is. Zach, are you on the Philippou train with us?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you guys. It just seems that he's, like David said, he's on a longer streak. He's dealt with a tougher crowd, dealt with tougher fights since he's been in. But you never know about guys in the UFC, about anybody in the UFC. They're there for a reason. They're there because they're great fighters. And if this guy's training up in GSP's backyard, you never know what tricks he may have up his sleeve. But I still don't see him beating Philippou.
Yeah, I agree. And I believe that Philippou left the Serra-Longo camp at this point. I think I heard that. I'm sorry if I'm wrong on that. I'm sure listeners will let me know if I am. But I'm pretty sure I did read that. And I was a little disappointed because I really like what the Serra-Longo camp's been turning out, We're kind of past the days where it's Matt Serra and Pete Sell carrying the flag, and we're getting into some really, really tough guys. I mean, the champion right now, middleweight's holding the belt, and maybe that's why Costa left. I don't know. Maybe he sees the title fight on the horizon, and he wanted to get free. But I'll be anxious to see if anything's different with his style when he comes in. I definitely want to talk about the lightweight fight that's starting off the main card, Pat Healy and Khabib Nurmagomedov. That is an intense fight. I don't know what to think about this one. I did not think Pat Healy was going to come out and manhandle Jim Miller in his UFC debut. It's a no contest, but because of pot, whatever, that's bullshit. He killed Jim Miller in that fight. And then Khabib has been looking like a monster himself. So I have no idea which way to go on this. If I were a betting man, I would say that Khabib's about to hit an American grappler who's going to be able to withstand his grappling and maybe put him on his back and hold him down. But that's just a hunch. That's not really there's no science going into that pick, so I'm not going to make a pick. I'm just going to say that's going to be an awesome lightweight fight. Zach, what do you think about that one?
I think Healy's going to pull it off. Like you said, he completely dominated in his first fight. It's just I can't see real well. I don't have my glasses on. Does it say Khabib is 20-0? Is that right?
Oh yeah, this guy's a monster.
Yeah.
This kid, he was the national champion Russian. He was like a combat sambo champion. It's the same style that Fedor and his brother are champions at in Russia. He's just a young kid in a lower weight class he's a champion of the same thing, essentially like the national sport of Russia, the combat sambo, which is pretty much MMA. And this kid is absolutely slayed. He's walked through everybody. And then I was reading an article about him. He's training with Greg Jackson, and they were saying that his wrestling is an insanely high level. Like they say, even within the Jackson camp, they're like highly, highly respected wrestlers. And they'll tell Khabib, they'll be like, okay, take him down now. And he'll be like, take him down now? They say, take him down now. He'll say, okay, and he'll just take a down. And this would be like a super high level, like world class wrestler who's working with these MMA guys at Jackson's. And they're like, we don't want to mention any names, but this guy is absolutely he's just ragdolling super high level wrestlers. And because his style is more Russian, we're not as familiar with it, or the level that he really is at, and like what he's capable. But just think about how easy it was for Fedor to wrestle people. He had those upper body takedowns so down that if he clinched up with you, no matter if he didn't toss you right away, and even if you got like a toss on him, he would have some kind of counter in the air, like when he Oigama or whatever. Who was that guy who he fought? That big, great big guy. They had that weird. Anyway, a lot of situations where Fedor would take people down, where people would try to take Fedor down, and he'd reverse them in the air. That's the type of weird, land on your feet catch style wrestling that this guy has, and he loves to suplex people. The difference is that like Pat Healy is Pat Healy. Pat Healy's not a normal dude at all, and he can fight real good from the bottom. So even if this Khabib guy's wrestling is like super good, I just don't see him dumping someone like Pat Healy on his head and it mattering. And Pat Healy can take a beat and then he'll give one right back. It's the salty veteran against this like scary up and comer. I mean, 20-0 is nothing to joke about. I mean, like that's at lightweight 20-0, especially when you're fighting like you're marching through the UFC. But before that, I mean, he took out pretty much all of Russia.
Yeah. And
now he's with Greg Jackson. He's got absolutely the best possible 2-win scenario going into this. I'm more excited about this fight than I am about the Jones fight, for sure. For sure. I'm really stoked about this one. I'm a big Pat Healy fan, and this new kid is really turning some heads. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's a really great matchup.
Yeah, the only real blemish that Pat Healy has had in years was the Josh Thompson fight. And he came with such aggression against Jim Miller that I can't imagine Khabib manhandling him, but I might see it, and I'm excited for the idea that I might see that. And I think it is the most intriguing fight on this card. I think it's probably the closest. It's the hardest to pick. And so that does make it the most compelling. The only fight that on the main card that we've neglected to mention at this point is the heavyweight fight, Matt Mitrione and Brendan Schaub. What's funny about this is that when I saw that, I just assumed I'd already seen this fight before. And then I was like, oh, no, I guess they haven't fought each other. Okay, cool. I have to assume Brendan Schaub, I think, has the heavier hands, but he might also have the weaker chin. So I'm not sure how that matches up. He seems to come with a little more power. Mitrione's a little more pitter-pattery for being such a big guy with his stand-up. So I'm going to lean slightly towards Brendan Schaub, but this is another one where I'm not really sure which way it's going to go, and I think we're going to see two big guys clashing, and big guys that won't run out of cardio in the first round, and so that's a good thing. David, what's your prediction on this one?
I think it's a really good matchup. These guys both have they both like to bang, they both like to hit you and make you fall down if they can. I think it's easy to question Brendan Schaub's chin after the Nogueira fight, but you got to remember that anyone who gets knocked out in Brazil by a Brazilian, that isn't necessarily indicative of how they're going to react outside of Brazil if they're getting hit by a non-Brazilian, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so,
I think I get your implication.
And I feel like I think Brendan's really young. I think this is actually a really good matchup too. It's not quite, Khabib, Pat Healy, but I mean, what is? I mean, that's like a luck out. Like that should be like the main event of like a fight night. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's such an awesome matchup. I mean, it's going to take away from every other matchup on this card, unfortunately. But Mitrione and Schwab, I think, are. I think this will be the fight where we can allow ourselves to question Schwab's chin or not. Mitrione's the type of guy, he may not hit you like the most technically, but he's going to hit you if he can, and super athletic. I think Schwab's got a slightly better ground game. Is that true? Isn't he like a black belt?
I don't know, but I think that he definitely is more willing to go to the ground. And because Mitrione said from the get-go that he wanted to be a heavyweight Chuck Liddell. He just wanted to keep it on his feet and scrap. But, I mean, he's been a little shaky. He had the Czech Congo fight. He had the Roy Nelson knockout loss. And then he picked up one win. Was it DeFreeze? But that doesn't really tell me a lot. So we'll see. Zach, are you going with the Mitrione-Indiana ties and picking him?
Yeah. I'm picking Mitrione, not just because he's from Indiana. I just think he's going to knock him out. I didn't like Brendan Schaub on the show when he was on Tough, and I haven't really liked him since. Wasn't he in the finale with Big Country?
Yep.
Yeah,
he got knocked out.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I just hope to see it again. I was just never a big Brendan Schaub fan, ever. And to tell you the truth, I'm not a huge Matt Mitrione fan either. I don't know why. I never really liked him either. But I think it'll be an interesting fight. I think it'll be whoever's able to land a solid shot first will win. I just hope Mitrione wins or lands that shot first.
Yeah, I think that, I almost flip a coin on this one. Although, as David pointed out, I think that the fact that Schaub might be willing to take it to the ground might give it a little bit in his favor if I'm just looking at it on their skill sets matching up against each other. If he could blast a double leg and put Mitrione on his back, that'd probably be the clearest route to victory, but not enough for me to declare it to be so. That's a preview of the main card there for UFC 165. We're going to go to commercial right now, and when we come back on the other side, we're going to have Daniel Straus joining us. I'm excited about this, so we'll be back in just a moment.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products online on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
Where else?
Hey, yeah, we're here. All right, we are back live, Real Combat Media MMA Radio, and we are joined here now by soon featherweight title challenger in Bellator, Daniel Straus. Daniel, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. We're having a very good evening so far. I want to say to you first, congratulations on finally getting this title fight. It's been a kind of a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yeah, man. It's first off, thank you, I appreciate it. Secondly, yeah, man, it's been brewing for a while, and I'm excited to get back in there and finally get the fight, especially for this title.
Yeah, and you took when you were first supposed to fight Curran, he was injured, right? And so you took a fight with Alvin Robinson to stay busy. Am I right on that?
Yeah, something was going on. I think it was Patricio's hand. Patricio had broke his hand. He had a few hand problems, and I wanted to stay active, whatnot, and I had to fight with Alvin Robinson. A lot of people didn't want me to take that fight, but I really wanted that fight, and then I ended up breaking my hand. So it's been set back for a while.
Yeah, but it's coming around now, and you get to be on the first Bellator pay-per-view, which I'm sure is exciting. And I have to ask, though, for you, which is more important, that you're fighting for that featherweight title or that you get to fight Pat Curran?
The title. I don't care who it is that I'm fighting. I'm not one that I know where I've came from in the sport, and I know where I've gotten to, and I've worked, really extremely hard to be amongst the best of the fighters in the world, and finally get to fight for a world title has been one of my biggest goals. And now I get to fulfill that dream. So fighting for the title first is what's in my head.
Okay. Does that change? Like, if you take that title, is it just whoever they put in front of you, or are you then rooting for Pitbull to win this tournament to where you get to fight him again?
I'm a little iffy, man. I would definitely like to fight Pitbull again. But to me, it's whoever they put in front of me. Whoever wins that tournament is the next person I want to fight. I know there's somebody else that's waiting for their shot too. So, hopefully I win this belt, and then I go into the next guy, and after that I go into the next guy. So, I'm one to just, I fight who they put in front of me. I would just want to continue doing great things in the sport, and I'm not one to pick and choose opponents or whatnot like that. So, I just want to fight who's in front of me, who's ready to fight.
Yeah, your career reflects that too. You have fought everyone they put in front of you, and you've beaten almost every single person they put in front of you. And I think there's a pretty strong chance you're going to be able to carry that over into November. I'm not going to hog all your time here. I want my co-host, David Hollywood Hewitt, to have some time with you as well, so go ahead and take the floor, David.
Yeah, hey. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. Early morning here in Thailand.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I was going to ask you that. I said it's an early morning. Where is it? Sorry, I was trying to find my microphone. Yeah, early morning here in Thailand. I'm in Phuket right now. But I had a couple questions for you about. I wasn't real familiar with you, so I had to look into to kind of do a little research, and it looks like you're definitely on the rise, man. And so congratulations on everything that has led up to this point, and best wishes for the future. I had a couple of questions about some stuff you may have dealt with over your career. One thing was, it seems like you fought in a bunch of different weight classes. What weight classes have you fought in, and what size do you walk around at?
Really, I've only fought in two weight classes, and that was 155 and 145. Majority of my earlier fights was in 155, and at the time that I was fighting at 155, I was kind of small. I was walking around about 58, 60, and start fighting at 145, and my weight kind of went up a little bit, but not much. I walk around about anywhere between 65. Sometimes 70, a little heavier sometimes, but not much heavier. I'm a decent size 45. I'm not too big, but I'm definitely not too small. So you were an undersized lightweight, and you're a decent sized featherweight. Yeah. I always I never really I grew up a wrestler, so cutting weight was never really a bad thing for me. I always liked to cut weight. So when I was fighting at 55, I just, being the size I was, fighting guys, and guys were a lot bigger. You know, my coaches came to me and was like, "Hey, why don't you decide to drop down?" So, you know, it just happened naturally.
Okay, yeah, the wrestling background probably made a big difference, huh? The wrestling has that tenacity that tends to make up for a little bit of nostalgia. Like if the guy's a little bit bigger than you, the wrestling seems like you can kind of compensate for it with the hustle.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think wrestling is, you know, put a lot of me mentally and physically in, as far as the sport. So, you know, when it comes to fighting, my wrestling background has helped me tremendously.
Did you ever? Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. Went to Sycamore High School. Yeah, so good old Ohio boy.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever get in fights growing up? Was that something that you that happened, or were you a pretty docile kid?
You know what? To be honest, man, I wasn't a big fighter. You know, I had my few scraps here and there, but you know, I wasn't one of those guys that just was fighting all the time. You know, I never was put in a lot of positions where I had to fight all the time. But you know, I've had my fights here and there, but you know, fighting wasn't my thing. You know, I was a wrestler. I stayed busy wrestling, so you know, I never was a wild child like that. You know, fighting everybody and whoever came across me. So, you know, fighting once I actually came to the sport of MMA, I actually didn't want to because of, you know, I wasn't a big fighter. I didn't really want to take on the sport of, you know, just getting in there and fighting, and you know, it just actually grew on me. So yeah, you know, that's how it all started.
Yeah, one more question, and I'll let the other guys ask you some stuff. But I was going to say, who is the toughest training partner you've ever had? And being from Ohio, you ever worked with Matt Brown?
Second question first. I have not got to work with Matt Brown too much. I have, you know, got to roll in the same gym with him a couple times. Me and him personally have not got to roll or, you know, work together. I have a lot of respect for Matt Brown. He's a super nice guy. You know, I've met him a couple times, got to hang out with him a couple times. I have a lot of respect for that guy. You know, he's a beast at what he does. So, you know, Matt Brown I tip my hat off to him. My hardest training partner, you know, the list can go on for days. You know, there's guys back in Cincinnati that, you know, no one's ever even heard of that just used to give me the business, you know. And there's guys here at ATT that, you know, guys like Mersad, you know, Zohan, and, you know, I have a bunch of training partners, Matt Lentz, you know, or Nick Lentz, you know, guys that just really push me and, you know, beat me up all the time. So, you know, I've had a bunch of just really good training partners.
Well, I mean, all right. I mean, like, is there one training partner through the years that really sticks out to you as the one dude that still stresses you out to spar with? For me, is Mike Pyle. He spent the better part of 2 weeks beating the shit out of me every single day until I was getting like pre-fight anxiety before, and it was one of the best and most. I learned more during that period of time than I ever did, but it was terrifying, you know. And but he's notorious as like a brutal sparring partner, and I experienced that firsthand. I think he'd be that for me. Is there one dude who really really got to you when you were sparring? Where you're like, man, I got to figure out how to deal with this guy. Yeah, this is going to be so sharp and learning curve.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think it. Like I said, I have to say it'd be a guy named Mersad, man. He's a young, very talented fighter. It seems like every day he's getting better, you know. So, you know, you spar with him, he's touching you up. You know, you train with him, he's just always, you know, getting the better of you and pushing you. So, I have to say, Mersad, man, he's a really tough athlete and a very good fighter.
Cool. Look out for that guy too. That's all I got.
Definitely.
All right, right on. I'm going to hand you over now to a columnist here for Real Combat Media. Zach Heim is with us as well. Zach, you got anything for Daniel?
Yeah, Daniel, how you doing today?
What's going on, buddy? How you feeling?
Doing well, thanks. first off, I just wondered, how does it feel to be fighting on the first ever Bellator pay-per-view card? You know, I know it's a title fight, but is there any added pressure? Do you think there's going to be any added pressure with it being the first ever Bellator pay-per-view?
To me, no. You know, to me, it hasn't even hit me yet. You know, I'm not concerned about ratings. I'm not concerned about who's all going to be there. I'm not concerned about a sold-out show. All I'm concerned about is winning the belt that night. You know, with that being said, I'm excited to be on their first pay-per-view. It's a blessing to be, you know, to come so far in this organization and to get to be a part of that. You know, so it does. On one hand, it does mean a lot to me, but on the other hand, you know, I'm not even thinking about it. Maybe after the fight, you know, you can ask me that question and I'll tell you something different. But, you know, right now my main focus is just winning that title. So, you know, being on the pay-per-view, whether it's on the pay-per-view, you know, whether it's on the prelim, whatever, as long as I'm fighting for that, you know, that belt, that's all I'm really thinking about.
Okay. Also, just have you changed anything at camp getting ready for this fight since it is a title fight, or have you just kind of kept the same basic thing?
Yeah, I've changed a little. Not much, but, you know, here's the thing, you know, no one's going to come to the fight the same fighter they was the last fight. You know, I don't expect Pat to be the same fighter he was, but at the same time, you know, how much has he progressed? And the same is to be said with me. You know, I hope, you know, he doesn't think I'm going to come the same fighter as I was my last fight, but, you know, how much have I progressed? You know, I've changed a lot as a fighter, mentally and physically, and, you know, training with my coaches and, you know, the little pointers that they've been giving me and the things that I've been working on. And, you know, so, yeah, I think I'm going to bring something a little bit different to the game, you know, my mentality-wise, as far as, you know, trying to just, you know, take it to a guy a whole fight, you know, and trying to finish guys a little bit more and whatnot. So, yeah, I think I'm going to just bring a little bit something new to the game.
Okay. Well, that's all I really got, Daniel. Good luck in this fight, and I look forward to watching you hopefully take that title come November 2nd.
Thank you, man. I greatly appreciate it.
All right, Daniel, I have one more question for you, and that is, my assumption is on November 2nd, the game plan is to eliminate Curran's movement, put him against the cage, put him on his back on the ground. Is there anything that I should be expecting differently in this fight?
Yeah, you know, I got to beat him to the punch. You know, I got to beat him to his foot movement. You know, I got to stay outside of his right hand. I got to, you know, there's a lot that goes into a game plan, you know. It's not always just one thing. It's not always putting him on the ground or putting his back against the cage. You know, so, you know, I'm just out there to, you know, to beat him to the punch. You know, I got to win that fight before he has it in his head that he's in a fight. You know, so that's what I'm focusing on.
Fantastic. Do you want to throw your Twitter out there or anything before we let you go?
Yeah, man. You guys can follow me on Twitter, Daniel Straus, Straus. You can follow me on, you know, all the little media, the little social media sites, Instagram, Facebook. It's all the same. Name never changes. So if you guys out there excited for this fight and looking forward to it, I appreciate you guys hitting me up, wish me the best or whatnot, and I'll try to talk back with everyone.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Well, hopefully we'll get to talk again after November 2nd. Hopefully you've got that title around your waist. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Have a good night and good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Night. All right. I like hearing what he has to say. I like the mentality because it's obvious with Pat Curran, his biggest strength is his footwork. His movement is unbelievable, and he gets guys frustrated, and he's in the fight with the same speed the entire time. And so it's nice to hear about how the approach is going to be there, and I think he's got the right idea. I think that you can't let Pat Curran be in his groove that whole fight where it's going to be a nasty 5 rounds.
Absolutely not. Pat Curran is so good. He's so talented. It's going to be he's one of those guys where you just want to see him fight anyone just to see what happens, because he could, that guy can create magic, and then if you don't magic out, that's also pretty badass to watch. So it's going to be a really kick-ass fight. I think Daniel's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'm looking. The thing is, Pat Curran is still like, I've seen him fight so many times, and I still don't feel like I've seen everything he has. And I say the same thing for Daniel Straus too. I think that both guys have the potential to really pull out something, to show you something different. Straus just finished his last fight, and he was on, kind of a decision roles for a while, and that's always exciting when you see somebody kind of turn that corner at the same level of competition. It's like, okay, this is all coming together now. It makes a much more dangerous fight,
When wrestlers start finishing people, when they really figure out that TKO submission, whatever that equation, whatever it is, whatever that piece of the puzzle that a wrestler needs to plug in to that wrestling game plan to turn them into a finisher, some people figure it out, some people don't. And I say the sooner the better. You have someone like a Johnny Hendricks who figured it out, relatively quickly. That guy just learned how to connect. And Daniel has started finishing people, then that can only be in his favor, and they like people like finishers. That's it, Hey, on another Bellator note, I just saw this. Did you see that Matt Riddle withdrew from the Bellator tournament and retired from mixed martial arts?
No. So is he the guy from the welterweight tournament that was missing?
Yeah, probably. Matt Riddle.
Wow.
It says he cracked his rib and retired. And then he said since Bellator can't give him another fight this year, that he's got to retire from MMA. He's got to withdraw from his contract so he can get another job. Riddle's got a wife and 2 kids.
Man, and there was, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was just like a video going around that was Dana White kind of going off about Matt Riddle. Did you see that, Zach?
No, I didn't see it.
Basically, the gist was he's talking about how Matt Riddle was boring to watch, blah, 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 and then he's also like, and the guy can't pass a drug test to save his life. Like, if you're that stuck on smoking pot that you can't show up, he's like, you work 3 times a year. You can't get clean to come in here and do it, And I hate the pot. I don't understand why pot is on the list. Like, it's stupid. But I have to kind of agree with Dana White. Like, if you're getting drug tested, it's pretty silly, especially if it's not like a steroid, like I blew out my knee, I'm trying to heal, I knew I'm playing dirty. I'm just smoking pot. Like that's and I know there's like the Diaz thing where it's like, oh, but in California I'm allowed to smoke it. Yeah, but you're not allowed to have it in your system for your job.
It doesn't mean, just because it's legal in California doesn't mean Nevada's going to change their drug testing policy. And he's absolutely right. Like, weed is a very easy thing to get out of your system for a drug test. I mean, you can do the hair follicle, the shampoo. You have the drink, and you just drink, and then you have to pee like within a certain period of time, and then you'll piss clean off of that. It's a fairly easy thing to pass. I mean, it takes like 2 weeks to purify your system. There's some of them you can do in like 4 days. If you're living in the States, you go to any head shop and you can just buy a little thing. And it's unfortunate when fighters neglect to do that, because it seems to always be the fighter that I'm rooting for that gets popped for marijuana. It always seems to be that guy. It's always a Riddle or a Healy or a, whoever.
Yeah, the first I can remember, like I'm sure there were other cases that I just didn't notice, but the first one that I remember was when Nick Diaz fought Gomi in the Las Vegas Pride card in one of the best fights I've still ever seen, and then got it taken away for having pot in his system. My jaw hit the floor. I could not believe it. Like, I don't smoke pot personally. I mean, I did when I was younger, whatever, but I am like a total advocate. If you want to smoke some pot, like, smoke some pot. Like, that's ridiculous to me. With Nick Diaz, they tried to say that it was such a high amount in his blood that he must have been high during the fight. David, would you smoke pot before you fought?
I don't know. Because I've trained after smoking, and that, there's a reason that a lot of that marijuana and the fight community are so close. And it's because it's like an all natural, like a painkiller. It's the type of thing that will get your head right before you have to do like the hard conditioning. All those really difficult things that your body just after doing it, twice a day for 4 days straight, that fifth day or whatever. And sometimes like it's nice to have like sort of a way to guarantee you can get your head right without having to depend on chemicals, without having to depend on prescription medication or some of these pre-workout things that can mess up your stomach,
Right, sure.
I mean, training in the West, like training in Las Vegas and in California and stuff, I mean, it's so like intertwined. I mean, if you want to find a place, if you're trying to score some weed in a strange city, just go to a jiu-jitsu school. I mean, that's like the easiest. Like if you train, like seriously, that's like the easiest way to do it. Like any jiu-jitsu school, it's so intertwined with the culture. I mean, someone there's going to be holding. So I'm not surprised, and like Riddle's a friend of mine. Like I trained him quite. He was on my podcast, the Hollywood Hewlett podcast, back when I was in Las Vegas earlier this year, like back in January. And I had him and Dave Mazzani in a great interview, and Riddle was talking about some of his experiences and stuff. And he had a really interesting article where he was talking about how maybe for some kid who's just sitting around playing Xbox, marijuana is a drug, but for fighters, it's medicine. And that's 100% true. Riddle's just a bit more candid about it than a lot of other people are. I was shocked to see that he actually retired, but at the same time, I do remember when we were training together in Vegas, and he was talking about some of the issues he had with the UFC, because Riddle's one of these guys who is part of the highly fertile Tough 7 crowd, along with Matt Brown, who also he knocked up his girlfriend and she had twins, and all of a sudden he's on a Tough 7 salary, and he's got more bills he's got to pay. He's got 3 mouths to feed, and he used to just have one. And so, like, I know the UFC, helped him out with, like, some residual stuff. Or not residual stuff, but, helped him out with some of his bills stuff, because basically the whole argument was, look, I'm going to have to get a job if you guys don't fight me or give me some money, period. That's just quit. And it looks like Bellator was a bit more strict with their contract than the UFC was. And, so he just retired instead of get Riddle another fight. They just let him retire, which is really unfortunate, man. I think Riddle is so good. He's so incredibly good. They're both friends of mine, man, but I would love to watch a fight between Jesse Taylor and Matt Riddle now. Like that's so intriguing to me, because both of them feel the same when I spar with them. Yeah. They're both just they have similar styles, man. It's real disappointing, man, because I'm really looking forward to see Riddle fight on some different fights. Here's another interesting thing about Matt Riddle. He's never fought outside the UFC. 100% of his fights are inside the UFC, and the fact that he would get in Bellator and be like, it's not the same, and just balance. Like, I wonder what he's doing, man. I need to send him a message.
Yeah, hopefully things are going all right. Before we get to the next interview in here, Zach, I just want to throw to you real quick. Do you have a dissenting opinion on the marijuana as a banned substance? Where do you stand on that?
I don't smoke pot, and like you, I did when I was younger. I was watching a Joe Rogan podcast that he did with Chael Sonnen, and according to Joe Rogan, there are 2 different types of marijuana, and there's a type of marijuana that is an upper that will give you energy and things like that. That's according to Joe Rogan. I guess it would be which weed is it? Which type of marijuana is it? I understand what David was talking about, though, how it can be a drug for one person, but how I can understand how fighters would use it for medicine. I get that, and if it's your body, if you want to smoke pot, go ahead and do it. I've got no problem with that. They're adults, and kind of like you talked about, if you know your job's rules and you still want to do it, then that's your choice, you have to deal with the consequences if you get caught, so, if you get caught, don't complain about it, because you knew beforehand what the chances were. So, that's all I really think about the whole plot thing.
Yeah, I'll say this just as a capper to it. I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, and I'm just going to say, even if it is a medicine, there are other medicines that your doctor gives you that you still can't have in your system when you're fighting.
Right.
So, so if that's the argument you're going off of, then I don't have any sympathy. But my actual opinion is much different. And David, you brought up good points about different things that it can be used for a fighter. I was thinking of it more in the context of I could see smoking weed before lifting weights. I could see smoking weed before rolling with somebody. I couldn't box to save my life. If I had to box somebody for custody of my daughter, they're walking away with her. So I couldn't imagine being stoned and having stand up sparring with somebody. I think that would be murder for me. But I'm a professional fighter.
That all depends.
All right, I am going to throw to commercial here, and we're going to get James Porter in here to talk about his upcoming fight with Sergio Pettis. So we'll be back in just a moment.
This is Real Combat Media Radio. Check us out at realcombatmedia.com. While you're there, check out the Feed the Poor link on the bottom of every article, and you can send a donation if you're interested. That is, once again, on the bottom of every article as well as on the top of the website. If you are an MMA, boxing, or fitness business and interested in sponsoring our website or radio podcast, send us an email. Advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Once again, that is advertising at realcombatmedia.com. Make sure to check out the Real Combat Media MMA and boxing store at the top of the menu at realcombatmedia.com. We carry a collection of products. We have the Cardio Mask, which is excellent for all fighters, endurance athletes, and serious fitness enthusiasts. Once you are in the Real Combat Media store, click on the banner on that page. We also carry Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is a great and natural product which activates your brain's neurotransmitters and helps you think more clearly, which improves brain function. You can also purchase the world's healthiest plant protein, which comes from hemp. There are many other products on the online store, and click on the On It banner at the Real Combat Media store, and you can purchase Alpha Brain and other health products. Use the discount code Real Combat Media, and you will receive 10% off at the checkout store on the On It. That is ONNIT on the banner at Real Combat Media store. Buckle up. Here we go. Let's get this show started.
All right, we are back live, Real Combat Media, MMA Radio. We are now being joined by flyweight prospect from Indiana, James Porter. James, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing just fine. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. You're on here, myself, Isaac. We actually know each other. David Hollywood Hewlett and Zach Heim are here as well. Say hello to James, fellas.
Hey, what's up, James?
Hey, what's up, guys?
So, James, it pretty recently was announced, this fight that you have coming up at the end of the month here against Sergio Pettis for the North American Fighting Championship. And this is in Milwaukee, correct?
Yes, it is.
How much notice did you get for this fight?
I'm pretty sure we took it on like a month and a week's notice.
Okay.
I got the contract around then.
Is that like a standard thing for you? Is that enough time for you to get ready, or is that a little hustled?
No, that's usually pretty standard. My last fight, I got a little more time, but I stay in training full time around, so it's really no problem.
Yeah, so no problem with the. But I was going to say no problem with the weight, but this fight, interestingly enough, Sergio is the flyweight champion for Resurrection Fighting Alliance, but this fight in his hometown, you guys are taking at 135, correct?
Yes.
And was that just how the contract was presented to you?
Yeah, apparently he can't make 125 anymore, so I was willing to take it at 125 because my last fight was at 125 too. It was a title fight as well, so we were prepared to make the cut again, but I guess his team didn't feel comfortable with him cutting the weight, so we agreed at 135.
Okay, that kind of leads me to my next question is, since there's obviously a ton of hype around Sergio Pettis because he's Anthony's little brother, he's from the Duke Rufus camp, and I'm not saying it's not deserved. I mean, he's got an 8-0 record, and he's doing well, and his last fight should have been a great test for him taking on Jeff Curran. Didn't work out that way. He had a different opponent, whatever. But being from Indiana, I know that this is a fight between yourself and Sergio that's been talked about a lot because you guys about the same age, your records are looking about the same, both like pretty hot prospects. And to see it happen now, I'm excited. But I got to say, with the weight class choice and the location of the fight, it seems like pretty much everything about this fight is for Sergio Pettis. Do you feel like serious underdog status going into this?
Maybe to his people, but not the mainstream people that know us both. You know, the real hardcore fans. I think they know that there's no like questioning my record or my resume. The guys that I fought, and I still believe I fought tougher competition than he has. So, you know, that gives me the confidence in believing I'm the favorite for this fight. And if he has to have, you know, every circumstance, you know, to suit him at his show, at his town, you know, his trainer's promotion at his weight, you know, that's fine with me, whatever he needs to accept the fight. So I've been ready to take this fight for a long time now. So.
Yeah, and I have to say, because of, you know, how his career's been pushed along, you've probably had a lot more time to think about Sergio Pettis than he's had to think about you.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just think about who I'm fighting next all the time, and you know, like I said, every fight that I've fought, you know, in my pro career is, you know, it's been a step up every single time. It's been a tough guy every single time. You know, I haven't just been running through guys because they're legit professional fighters, and I'm not saying the guys that he's fought aren't, but I think he's very well managed. I will say that. I think that's
Sure.
why he's got all the prospect and all the, you know, all the hype around him, because he's taking guys out quick. But I think that's also a lot of his management helping him out there too.
Sure. And, you know, if someone were to look at your record who hasn't actually watched your fights, like, it's littered with submission victories. And I think that for prospective opponents of yours, it may be a little misleading because you're actually, like, stand-up. You started with Taekwondo, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But do you think that is the ground your key for Pettis, or do you think this is a good time to show your stand-up skills?
You know, I definitely think I'm the better grappler, but I think I'm easily just as good, if not the better striker too, because my Taekwondo background is, I kind of think, more competitive than his, because I competed at that national level as a black belt against, you know, a lot of people. I have a lot of matches under my belt. So I really don't see him having the edge in the striking like he normally does against everybody.
Right. I have a lot of questions, but I'm not gonna bogart the conversation here. The one thing I will ask is, do you feel like if you take a win from Sergio Pettis at the end of the month here, that you get to Highlander all of his hype and like it all goes to you, and maybe we'll be seeing you on Access TV your next fight?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, especially if it's an impressive win. You know, there's no doubt that this fight's getting a lot of attention, so I'm aware of that, and, you know, I'm not letting the hype pressure me too much. I'm just looking forward to living up to the occasion and having a good performance.
Right on. All right, Zach, I'm going to hand it to you next. You got some questions for James?
Okay, yeah, James, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Good. I'm sure Isaac can tell you I always root for the Indiana boys. I live in southern Indiana myself, so I'm definitely pulling for you going in against Sergio. My main question for you is how do you plan on dealing with his speed? I don't know a lot about him. I just watched a highlight reel of him, and he looks to be pretty darn quick.
Yeah, he's fast. He's a fast guy. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, I think if you've seen my fights, they're pretty fast themselves. And, you know, I've got a good deal of unorthodox speed, you know, that I can kind of counteract his with. So I'm not really too worried about it.
Okay. And then I only got one more question. What are there any certain things that you're looking to exploit in his game, or just going to try to go with it? Do you see any flaws that you think you can exploit easier?
I wouldn't so much say a flaw, but I just think that I'm the better grappler, definitely. So, I think he's real sharp and all, but I think that I'm a little more offensive, a little more aggressive, and, just a little stronger in that area. So I think if I push the pace, in that direction and make it a real tough up and down fight, I think that'll give me a little bit more of an edge.
All right. Well, I tell you what, thanks a lot, James. And like I said, I always pull for the Indiana boys. I wish you a ton of luck, man, and we'll talk to you later.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, all right, David, you got the floor with James here.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
Well, hey, so you're from Indiana. I am not from that scene. I came up in Mississippi, but I've always noticed there's sort of there are commonalities with the Indiana and the Midwestern fighters. Being from that scene and being pretty involved in mixed martial arts right now, what would you say is unique about that region of the country compared to other places for fighters?
I'm really sorry. Can you repeat that question one more time?
What is special about Midwestern fighters? Being from Indiana?
Yeah, okay. I think it just a work ethic. I think that's just really says a lot about the guys that, they're not at that top level, TV deals, making a ton of money around here. They're still scratching and clawing their way up as contenders. And, just the persistency that I see around here in all the gyms it's amazing. Everybody works together, or tries to at least, and they all push each other real hard. And it's just, it breeds a good atmosphere for professional athletes. So
it really seems like it. There's so much talent right in that area, and everybody comes from that sort of like, sort of like Indiana, Chicago, that whole chunk of place.
Yeah.
It's really. I've got another. Let's see. Who would you say is the hardest opponent you ever fought? Who's the toughest guy that you actually had to compete against?
Definitely Carson Beebe, but that's just because he kind of dominated the fight. Anytime you take a loss, it's really tough to deal with, especially a loss like that where you kind of controlled every aspect of the fight. So I would say that one for sure.
What was the biggest advantage that he had that made him so tough, and what is it about your game that has evolved since that fight or because of that fight?
Well, when I took that fight, I took it after going on like a 6-month hiatus from training and fighting and competing. So I'd say the biggest difference is just in my consistency. I've been training nonstop since then. Excuse me. I've been training nonstop, 4 fights too. So I've been in active competition. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. But I've been in active competition. Training. Ah, God. Hold on.
Get a drink of water, James.
Whew. All right, there. So yeah, I've just been training hard, and this is a terrible time to get choked up there. Oh, God damn it. Okay. You want to move on?
That's fine. He's been training.
Whenever you're ready.
I know. I was
you got anything else, David?
I was going to say, yes. Okay, so you're a pretty young fighter, right? You're 21, is that right?
Yes.
James? Yeah.
Yes, I just turned 21.
Have you ever... Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Did you get hammered? Did you get hammered?
No, I didn't actually. No, I'm gonna wait till after next weekend.
There you go. Have you ever found yourself starstruck in mixed martial arts? Met somebody that you had like a celebrity moment?
Not really. No. Most people are pretty real, and actually a lot of people don't really know about MMA, so it's not really that overwhelming. It's just kind of casual still. And
well, no, what I mean is, have you ever met like, Vanderlei Silva or something? You're just like, wow, you know what I mean? Like where you were starstruck by somebody who's more, a big name in the sport.
Let me think about that. Maybe when I met Chris Lytle, that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, especially being from Indiana. I mean, that's he's a big.
That was really cool. Brady fought for him as an amateur and won a belt on one of his shows, so it was really cool.
Cool, man. All right, that's all I got.
All right. I'm going to throw just a couple here at you, James. And I should preface this before I get into it that my younger brother Thor trains with you, James, and so although you and I don't know each other that well, I have a lot of conversations with Thor. I don't know how much he relays to you about the conversations I have with him, but when I watch your fights, it's like my little brother fighting. I get so nervous. Does your corner yell at you to keep your hands up the entire fight? Because I yell at my screen the entire time. I know it's your style, but good God, you make me so nervous.
Yeah, well, sometimes, but I feel like now, at this point, everybody around me just kind of knows what I do, and they know it's worked for me, time and time again. So they've kind of put that anxiety aside a little bit. And learn to kind of just trust what I'm doing in there, and that I do have a thought-out game plan. I just don't act randomly. So I think that they kind of worry a little bit less now.
Yeah, I'm getting better. I'm starting to worry less. So it's getting better for me if you're worried about that.
There's nothing to worry about. I mean, I know that it's a danger no matter what game plan you go in there with. You could run forward the whole time and get caught just as easy as you could get caught with your hands down. So everything has its purpose and its moment to do something. And I'm pretty comfortable at this point with being able to mix it up like that.
Right. And the last thing I'll say is you talked about the Carson Beebe fight. That was another one where when Thor told me that you were taking that fight, I was screaming. Because didn't you go you had a fight at 125 and then your next fight was at 145? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, I was coming off a fight, a rematch with Carson Gainey at 125, and then I took quite a few months off, and I just felt the itch to fight again, but there wasn't really anybody that wanted to fight me around the lower weight classes at the time, and I got offered that fight for some pretty good money, so I just thought, what the hell, if I lose, I was supposed to, he's the big name. If I win, all the more credit to me. So I took a risk, and, that's kind of what I'm about. That's what my style's about, and that's how I live. Big risk, big reward mindset.
Right. If you had your choice, I feel like 125 is kind of the career goal because that division's wide open. But 135 might be easier for your body. What would be, if you got to choose for a UFC contract, which weight class would you choose?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. Really, it would almost have to be at 125 just because of how big the guys get from that 10-pound jump. It's unbelievable how big guys like Kenan Barrow and Eddie Wineland and Uriah Faber are. So I kind of have to just suck it up and make the cut to 25 if I'm going to really be the best in the world.
Yeah, sure. You mentioned the Carson Gainey fight. This is the last thing I'm going to ask you. I might be mistaken, but didn't you win both fights with Triangle?
Yes.
Do you realize that everywhere you go to find your record, including the Athletic Commission, it says you won by arm triangle in one of those fights?
Yeah, I did notice that actually. Yeah, it was not an arm triangle. It was. Yeah, it was a leg triangle for sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, we're not going to take up any more of your time, James. Just want to say good luck on the 28th in Milwaukee. I know that I'll be getting the text message play-by-plays from Thor as I do with every one of your fights, so I'm very excited for it. You want to throw your Twitter out there for the listeners?
Yeah, for sure. My Twitter, you can follow me at Mr. Porter MMA. And you can friend me on Facebook if you want. I'm a pretty friendly guy. So just let me thank all my training partners like Brady Hovermail and Bill Kilgore and, the Hollywood team that's supported me so much over the years. And, of course, my family, all the Porters, my parents, they've supported me since the beginning. So, and anybody else out there that's helped me out a lot. Cage Craze has helped me out. I know there's a ton of other people that I'm forgetting, so if I am, I'm sorry. I'll just know you're in my heart, and I appreciate everything, and, I'm looking forward to going and having a good performance next weekend.
All right, good luck with that, and we'll definitely have you back on here down the line and check up with what's going on and everything, so thanks a lot, James.
I would like that very much,
James.
All right, good night.
All right, thanks, guys. Yep.
Bye-bye.
All right. That, I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating at all. Like, watching the kid fight, he goes to my parents' house. Like I say, I don't know him that well personally, but my younger brother and him are tight, and he's at my parents' house more than I am. And so it's like watching that fight. It's like your brother or your friend in there. That's a pretty nerve-wracking thing. I can't even watch my older brother is a comic as well, and I don't even like watching my brother perform on stage because it feels like it's you up there. So I can't imagine being married to a fighter or something like that. That's nerve-wracking for me. David, do you get it with your training partners? Do you ever get nervous for their fights like you do your own?
Oh, absolutely. It really depends on your relationship with that person. I know that when it's my fighters, someone who I personally worked with, helping them prepare for this fight, and I happen to be able to corner them or I'm within earshot of them while they're fighting, then I'm going to blow my voice out. I just go pro wrestler and I just start screaming at the top of my lungs. It's hard not to. If I don't have my face smashed up against the fence yelling at the fighters, I don't even want to go to the show.
There's a couple things. We got about 9 minutes of the show left here. There are a few things I want to throw out. One is with the World Series of Fighting and Bellator cards that I watched this weekend, the best fights that I saw were on neither of those two cards, and it was Legacy Fighting Championship 23 on Axis. Leonard Garcia and Nick Gonzalez had what is definitely going to be in the running for Fight of the Year. It was a knockdown, drag-out. Leonard got it in the third round with a submission, and he was ahead pretty much the entire fight. He would have won on points, but those dudes brawled, and it was an amazing fight.
Never a dull moment with Leonard Garcia, man. That guy, he's entertaining as all hell.
Yeah, and this one, it was the best kind of Leonard Garcia fight because the guy didn't play Matador with him. He didn't just circle and let Leonard swing at him and then catch him with counters. Gonzalez brawled with him. It was nasty. So I recommend everybody watching that fight. And then on that same card, Tim Means in his first fight since being cut from the UFC, which he only went 2-2. That was pretty surprising. He retired Pete Spratt, gave Pete Spratt his first knockout loss with elbows, and it was brutal too. Pete Spratt took probably 6 punches on the ground that he should not have while a referee was watching.
Ooh, that's rough. Spratt is one of those characters that I when I was in Vegas over the last few years, his name came up a lot when I was doing my dealings with some of these Canadian promotions with Aggression and some of these other shows in that area for potential opponent for me. He was kind of right at that point where he was a veteran, and so I've done quite a bit of tape work on Spratt. I've been a big fan of his. I've kept up with him quite a bit. He fought Ryan Ford twice. I fought Ford, so I was watching those fights a lot. And then we have a couple other potential future opponents in common. I've ended up watching a lot of Spratt stuff. Man, have you ever seen that fight with it Daniel Anceo? Is that how you say that guy's name? You know the name? You know what I'm talking about? He's a Brazilian guy.
What was it in MFC?
It was some show in Brazil.
Oh, okay.
Dude, oh my God, Pete Spratt, that fight was incredible because it looked like Daniel was winning. You know, he's like the superstar guy, so he's winning with grappling. And then Spratt is like the last like second of the final round, and Spratt was like, he kept turning. He turned like, you know, he's like right hand back, so he turned left shoulder forward and like walk away from him. And then one time when he did that, he hit a spinning back fist, knocks him on his face like a flying squirrel, just splat. Like a frog that got hit by a car, just splat right on the ground. And he was right at the bell, you know, like he would have lost the decision, but he was out cold. I mean, Pete Spratt is really, really good is my point, you know, and the fact that it's taken this long for someone who does nothing but bang with people to get knocked out, you know, he's very, very talented. You know, he's definitely one of those names that we're gonna miss on the marquee.
Yeah,
you know, the classics, you know, the classics that do the classic hit tours.
He gave it like it wasn't the official like I'm never fighting again. It was more like that, like this is probably the last you've seen of me. I've never been knocked out before. I've been saying that when that happens, it's probably done. And you know, he's a coach and stuff, so I'm sure he'll be fine. And to be honest, I think Pete Spratt's been fighting long beyond people expected him to right now anyway. Like, and so it's probably not a bad choice to retire and not get knocked out 5 more times or whatever, you know, just like take the one and just be done with it and move on to greener pastures. Like, more power to him.
He's a very good striker. He hasn't taken that much damage. You know, he's not the type of guy like a Leonard Garcia who only, you know, he gets into knockdown, drag out wars, or he doesn't fight, you know. And Pete Spratt is talented. He's very technical, and he was always able to stay pretty safe throughout his career. So I don't know. He did a Randy Couture retirement. You know, maybe you'll see him again. Maybe not. It's always a check in front of his nose. I'm sure he'll pop back in there. Yeah,
and you know, if he does, good. I'll watch Pete Spratt fight again. The guy, he comes to fight, like, and that's, you know, that's a beautiful thing. Like, you don't get really, if you get a dull Pete Spratt fight, it's because the guy he's fighting won't let go of him and let him do anything. That's the only way it happens.
He's very consistent. You know, Pete Spratt is sort of a universal he's sort of a universal like gatekeeper in the sense that he is more effective than he is not when it comes to his style, but he does pretty much the same thing in every fight, which is sprawl and brawl, more or less.
Yep.
And his ability to do that effectively has made him a real proving ground for a lot of fighters. I mean, like, if Pete Spratt is someone who you've beaten, then that means that you are not just some dude. That means that you're legit. You
Absolutely.
know? And fighters like him are really important in the mix of things. Other guys like, I don't know, there's other dudes out there that kind of have the same type of status, but he's a really good example of that. You know, he's a universal gatekeeper in that regard.
Yeah.
So that, you know, if you beat Pete Spratt, people are going to notice.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Real Combat Media MMA Radio for this evening. Before we go, I do want to say once more, you find us at Real Combat Media on Twitter, Facebook, RealCombatMedia.com. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at ISAACLANDFERT. Zach, throw out the Twitter and the website one more time.
It's at Zheim82, ZHEIM 82, and the website is HoosierStateMMA.com.
All right, David, your website, podcast, and Twitter.
Yeah, that's right. I can be reached at Twitter at DC Hewlett. That's DCHULETT. You can follow my podcast, The Hollywood Hewlett Experience, at DavidHewlett.com or DavidHollywoodHewlett.com.
Fantastic. Well, that's it for us. We will talk to everybody soon. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Keep an eye on James Porter, Sergio Pettis, and we'll be talking about the Daniel Straus, Pat Curran fight here in the next few weeks as well. So thank you and good night, everybody.